Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. I'm Shonte Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist, and here also with Dr. Sarah Renee Langley, psychotherapist and mindset success coach as well. We are here to say, we told you so. No, just no, seriously. We did a live stream just talking about Jada's situation, and we just couldn't take it anymore because we were not here for the vitriol and the attack on a woman of color in this day and age, and we have to speak up about it. And so this is our part two after she has been on the interview. What do you call it? The interviews, not strip. You know,
So yeah, she's
in
been
the
doing her.
interview process with in these different realms, right? On I've seen her on daytime television and all kind of other talk shows, right? She was just with Ilyana Bonzant, right? And so people are either embracing her neutral or attacking everything about what she's doing. And so we just wanted to reflect on what has been happening since her interviews. And what we wanted to emphasize is that there is power in listening to someone's story.
Mhm.
Okay. When people tell their story, there's courage in that, there's healing from that. And we can't assume just because we have a snapshot of somebody's life that we can make all these assumptions and hate a person, literally hate a human being. You don't understand how many times we have heard that, read that people literally hate her, can't
Mhm.
stand her, wish she would shut up. I mean, just me, I'm hesitant to even say those words because the energy is not of our higher selves.
No.
So you got to go to a whole other place in your spirit and your heart to spew hatred. So, what say you, Dr. Sarah? What were your what do you recall from our last um, discussion on this as we were navigating what was happening with Jada and her coming out telling her story?
Listen, Phil, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. And to all your listeners that's out there that's watching and all of those who are watching from my end. So I just want to say a shout out to you all. Anitra, I see you. It's like, you said it. We told you so. It's like here they were. So I did see the video. So let me know, let us know if you got to see the video of her. She was interviewed and the person was just asking questions in regards to where are they, I'm paraphrasing it, but where are they today? I saw the video where Will was supporting Jada at one of her book tours. And
He
that's where,
surprised her,
yeah, he has
right?
her, supported her, and it was like all hell broke loose from that, but in a way where things had quieted. Like now it seems like people weren't as like accusatory or attacking like that because of the fact that, oh, now Will is standing up, he is supporting her, and then people felt played. They were, I started to read people's comments. They was like, we felt kind of played. It's like, well, people was like, you don't be in people's business. This is where you need to just like mind your own business and just let these people live. And this is what we talked about in the last interview or podcast or video, in regards to that. At the end of the day, it is their lives. This is their breakout, their breakthrough. They tired of living that fantasy, and now they want to discover who they are going forward. So,
Yes.
yeah, cool.
She
That's
said
good.
that in a clip on an interview that we both saw on Instagram, where she was like, she finally feels free not to live this fantasy. And
Yeah.
she like, look, I was just as disappointed as anybody else that this marriage was not going to be perfect. Like it wasn't going to be happily ever after,
Yeah.
right? She was finally willing to accept her plight because she had resistance going into the marriage because she wasn't a traditionalist as far as, getting married and the picket fence and all of that. But Will had it in his mind that was how the world was going to be for him and anybody in his world. So they really had two separate what paradigms in their minds on how they wanted to live. And so she finally feels free in this moment, and she expressed that in the one of her interviews.
Mhm.
And she also said, I'm in a catch-22 situation as a black woman, in America, having all these different issues we got to navigate. As a
Yeah.
black woman in America who has all these different uh, healing issues that we need to go forward or navigate as a community. So everybody's bringing their junk to her trunk,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's like, wait a minute. No, I said this. She didn't say this. Nobody had a problem going to the red table when she finally opened up their lives. Everybody was entertained, everybody was on board, right? And they started getting snippets. She was like, okay, you want to know about our lives? Here we go. And so when it got to a certain point, oh, people felt some kind of way. And
Mm.
now she's demonizing Will. She's emasculating Will. She's the puppet master of this grown ass 6 foot
Uh,
something,
uh.
attractive, successful male. Okay,
Mhm.
somehow she has willed the power of Jada
Right.
to force him to go assault somebody on national TV, in one of the biggest moments of so many people's lives. But we're going to demonize the black woman about it. We're going to put it off on her as much as we can. And that's where I drew the line. That's where both of us drew the line, right, Dr. Sarah? Because it's
Yeah.
like, look, I see myself in her. We see ourselves in her, feeling
Yeah.
trapped, demonized for everything, judged worse than our male counterparts, not forgiven as easily.
Yeah.
There are so many parallels. And that's why stories are so powerful, because our brains are designed for stories
Mhm.
because they connect us. We're in sync. Our brains start resonating at the same frequencies. That's where oxytocin is released, the hormone of trust and bonding.
Mhm.
And we can see ourselves in those narratives. And when we tell the story, it's coming from a place of courage a lot of times, especially if you're trying to navigate your journey.
Yeah.
And all I started off with was we just need to let the woman tell her story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen. And so what do we say? We told you. We told you so. Because that's what she reflected on in her interview. She was like, I have to, a lot of times in the Black community, or a lot of communities, we're not supposed to tell our story. And as women, this is what she's saying in her
Mhm.
own words. That's why I said it's important to listen, y'all. In
Amen.
her own words, she's saying that there is a culture where women are told to shut up and not tell their stories.
Right.
And that means they got to hold on to it. They got to hold on to this image, even though it may be a toxic environment, a hurtful environment, an abusive environment, an uncomfortable environment. And they're told to suppress their voices. Does that sound familiar,
Mhm.
people?
Mhm.
And because she also says our stories are tied to other people, there is a resistance to tell our story, because telling our story means we have to implicate other people in that story.
And
And
isn't that
so we're holding up our own, once again, sacrificing our own healing journey for others.
I mean, isn't that how it works though? So I remember just talking to one of my clients today, how it's just designed where when someone is changing, so if you have the paradigm, you have the ebbs and flows. It's just think of a script. Like everyone, all the players in your life, friends, families, foes, they all play part of a script. Let's say that you are the nucleus, you are the head of that whole entire paradigm. And saying that to say, still think of a play, think of a movie, and you have the antagonist, you have the main person, you have the hero, you have different players in there. You're the hero. And so now everything is surrounded based on you, on your move. So when you move differently, that is usually in contrast or contoured to, in contrast rather, to how everybody has, kind of aligned to how you move. When you do something different, it throws the whole paradigm off. And when people are upset, they're not upset about the fact that you're changing. It's the fact that now they have to change to now kind of continue that script to go on. So I say all that to say that the fact that she was able to share her story, even at the risk of persecution, of being vilified, all of that, she looked at her freedom mattering just a little bit more than being vilified or the persecution or being bashed. Yes, I can only imagine how she and many people feel when people that we hold, to such a high standard, where they're like, okay, they got to mitigate and try to see how they can make it still work for everyone. But at this point, I feel, and we talked about this in the last video, I feel as if Shonte and everybody, that she had to now decide to be true to herself. She was not by any means stretches of the imagination of being a traditionalist, by which Will had imposed. But so to be fair too, she accepted the terms too. She did accept the terms, nevertheless, for whatever the reasons were, whether it was pressure or whatever. But nevertheless, it still played out the way that it played out. And at the end of the day, she's like, you know what, I want out. He's perhaps was like, they just wanted out of trying to live up to the standard that they took on, that was placed upon. And that's why everybody, ergo the audience who've been watching, who have been rallying with them, hashtag Will and Jada goals. It's like, as you said, Shonte, last time, they felt betrayed. It's like they had this fantasy and they were living up to that fantasy until they just couldn't live it up anymore. So I guess the bottom line is that now, yes, it's not cool to bash. It's not cool to vilify. It's not cool to persecute. For what? Why can't people learn how to reckon within themselves and deal with their own emotions? Because that's all it was just projecting their hurt and pain onto her, like to both of them, but more so to her, because that's how it's been designed here for us Black women. Yeah, and please, for those who are jumping in, because I'm also watching y'all, I see y'all. So y'all can also chime in. Feel free to put your comments in the comment section. But at the end of the day, this is about being true to who you are. And for her, it was her freedom that mattered more. And dealing, even if in the face of persecution, being vilified, she's looking for her freedom. And if that means her speaking her voice, if that means her being able to share her story, then that's where we are. And then look at the result. Will by her side, like you said, 6 foot something.
The family opening of the box of books. I mean, I thought that was a beautiful scene to put some of these opinions to rest. Okay, because I'm team family. I'm team work it out. I'm team healing. Okay. And so a lot of people who had the vitriol and could go to that place where they can name call and say such hateful things really says a lot about their own healing journey and where they are in time and space. Because you're not going to get me to demonize anybody on a platform unless it's the devil himself or herself, right? And I know some people think she's the devil, but you know what? A lot of people especially in this society, portray Black women a certain way, expect them to be a certain way, act a certain way. And this is across the board in a lot of industries, um, especially male dominated industries. Women are judged more harshly about their behaviors, about what they say when they make mistakes. I didn't do the research, people. There is a Mount Everest amount of research on the differences of judgment in various realms when it comes to women and men. Point blank, period. Okay. Will got to tell his story. We allowed him gracefully. We gave him grace to tell his story.
Yeah.
Nobody brought up his assault on, the Oscars, right? It was like, I didn't see near the vitriol, like any. Maybe there was, but we know how social movements are. We know how social, you know, um, flow is. There was a buildup and a buildup, and the more vitriolic, the more attention. And so we saw this whole dynamic of the all these people just shifting all this hatred, and anger towards this woman. I'm like, enough of this. This is not the time, people. There's a lot. You were saying this too, Dr. Sarah, last time we talked. We have too much going on in the world for us to be dealing with this nonsense. Find out where you can lift somebody up.
Yeah.
Find out if you can't say something nice. Then when we taught this, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. Okay?
That's 101 basics right there, right? Fundamentals. As a matter of fact, Shonte, Anitra, so she's a fellow licensed clinical social worker. So shout out to you, Anitra Green. And she says, you know what? This is nothing new. Yes, women have, it's sad to say that Black women often have been led into harsh conversations, and I find it highly disappointing. And she was saying that women have been blamed since the Garden of Eden. She took it back to the Garden of Eden. She's like, been blamed since the Garden of Eden. Ain't nothing changed. I mean, come on, since day one, since we got on this earth, right? It's just been, listen, it's the woman's fault. It's the, God, it's the woman that you gave me. So it's your fault, God. And it's your fault because you gave me that fruit, woman. Come on. We just want men to take the accountability. Do y'all know that word? What's interesting? Now I'm waking up for real. You know what's interesting? And my friend has stopped and watched me. Yes, I am saying this on yes, I am saying this on national, internet, on international internet. Listen, what's very interesting is that I will read comments. So I'm that type of person where I will read comments up and down. I like to see where was the breakdown? Where did it start in the thread? And then I will read it. I will read the whole entire thing. It doesn't matter if it's thousands of comments. I will read from top to bottom. And because I want to see how people are thinking and then where the shift came. Like, where did it shift? Where did it break down? Where did it go? And so I say that to say, when I read comments, when women are like, men, we just want you to be accountable. We just want you to, just be accountable for your actions. It seems like men also flip that. And we're trying not to make this as a bashing, men or women. We want to be objective, and please share your comments in the comment section as well, so that we can have your views and we can just have this dialogue. But it's very interesting when it's like men will say that as well. Like, women just need to be accountable. They don't hold themselves accountable enough. They always blaming us. They always blaming us. And it was this one comment in particular where it was this guy who was attending to someone's, his wife's mother. Mother didn't have any legs. The man, he was white. He had asked his wife's mother if she wanted to dance. And she said, she motioned like, yes. The guy picked her up into his arms and started dancing with her. And that was so beautiful. A lot of people was like, oh, this is the type of man I want. This is, I just love that. And so this one guy was like, man, it's a shame how, the Black man working hard and, we're trying our best every day, but we're getting bashed and we're not celebrated, but you're celebrating this white man. And there was this one woman that responded to that comment has said, you know what? why do we need to celebrate you on your obligation? You're supposed to work. You're supposed to have a job. You're supposed to, make it equal and fair, versus why do we have to always praise and celebrate you? Why can't you celebrate and praise yourself without feeling like you got to be celebrated for every single thing, when most of the things that you want to be celebrated for is obligation. You're supposed to do it. So I guess at the end of the day, this is a matter of bringing this back to Jada and Will and us just needing to mind our business. Mm-hmm. And look at things to be fair. As far as why do we have to continue to keep bashing? I mean, we want to have another conversation at another time that had now went viral about this one girl and this whole, oh my gosh, Shonte, did you see it? Y'all, did y'all see the list about women, what women refuse? I'm paraphrasing it, but women are refusing to do certain things on the first date, such as going to Cheesecake Factory. And now there's a flip to that. Now men's like, okay, this is, these are the type of women we don't want to date. And so they list that, but it's a spinoff because of a situation that we'll talk about another time, but y'all may have seen this already floating. And the point is how this ties in is this woman was bashed. Like she was heavily bashed, and it was just a skit. She was just using, just kind of taking it to as a teachable moment. And to our surprise, it was a skit, but yet she's still being bashed, vilified, even after the fact that people know and starting to know that it was a skit. But why? Why are we doing this to each other? Golly, can't we just all get along? What you say? What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Get in the comments.
I do hear the person who said, really none of this is our business. But I believe you may have brought up the Adam Eve situation. Okay, like she ate the apple, right? Or got Adam to eat the apple. However, I mean, when we think about, I forgot what else. I got so many. You gotta derail me with that.
Hey, it's going to be a part 3, 4, 5. This is going to be a sequel series.
There has to be. But I did have a point in my mind in regards to, I'm gonna move on. But this is what I was gonna say before I leave my brain again.
Yes, go ahead.
The question with Cain and Abel, right? Cain asked, he asked, am I my brother's keeper? Right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm like, I'm my sister's keeper. I'm my human's keeper. I'm humanity's keeper. Okay. So if I see bashing going on and I feel that we could come in with perspective from our viewpoint, from our expertise as human behaviorists, as a neuroscientist, as a psychotherapist, then it's our obligation to put ourselves, use our platforms to help to widen people's perspectives and deepen people's perspectives on these situations and issues that clearly are affecting people's emotions, right? And so we want to help people to navigate what's happening without the vitriol, or maybe use it. You were talking about this before, Dr. Sarah, how maybe take a pause and maybe explore, where is this coming from? Why am I going to the most basic, primitive emotions? Why am I reacting in such a way that I'm willing to spew these words that are not healing, that are not uplifting, that are not understanding, that are not curious? Where is this coming from? Because that's a lower vibration. You have to create stress in your body, in your brain, right? Cortisol needs to flood adrenaline, right? How are you going to get rid of that? You're conjuring that up on top of all these other social issues, world issues that's affecting us consciously and unconsciously. So ask yourself, as Dr. Sarah was trying to convey last time, and I hope people really listen and practice what she was preaching last time. Explore where can I find some understanding within my own self, where can I pause? Where possibly can I connect why I'm so upset with this situation and her? Is it connected to something that I went through? Does it remind me of an experience of a person, and now I'm projecting it on her because I haven't healed that part of myself, or I haven't navigated that in a way where I could not be as reactive anymore. And I can see somebody in that situation and I can hold space for them or not. I could just keep scrolling because I'm not bothered by it. Or maybe I just want to listen.
Right.
Because there's power in listening. Maybe you come to the understanding, yes, I need to tell my story. Because I haven't told my story, I can't even hear her story. I can't even empathize with any part. You can't empathize with any part of her journey. She just a bitch, master, puppet master, emasculation, whatever words people were throwing. She's all of that. There's nothing about her life that she has revealed that you willingly walked into her house, sat at her red table virtually, was entertained, was enjoying the fantasy right alongside them.
Yeah.
And now you mad. You're betrayed. And we understand that too. Because being betrayed it hurts. Having the walls fall down around you. This narrative, you trusted them. You trusted what they were serving up as this couple, as this standard, as something to aspire to. So when the house of cards started falling down, we felt that some people felt naturally betrayed.
Yeah.
I didn't. Dr. Sarah didn't. Some other people didn't for our own reasons. But when she wrote this book, all I said initially was, let's hear the woman out. Will got to tell his story. Why can't a woman, a Black woman, especially in these times, why can't she tell her story? Why are people telling her to shut up? That's what was angering me. Like, you wanna trigger me? Tell a woman to shut up in front of me. Okay? Suppress her voice in front of me.
Right. Right.
Because I'm not going for it. I'm my sister's keeper when it comes to that.
I saw her on Instagram, y'all. She doesn't play that. Listen, that's how we connected. We're connecting. But when I saw her on Instagram, listen, like, first of all, y'all better make sure y'all follow Shonte, okay? But I see her on Facebook and she be like swinging that bat. But on Instagram, that's a whole nother level. And I was like, you know what? We have to connect. We have to talk about this story. And what's interesting, Shonte, so just to look at the comments that came up, and we just want to say thank you to everyone watching right now. And so this is, Jada, we'll follow up on Jada's situation. And this is Jada's take on our take, part 2. And so we just want to thank everyone for tuning in Shonte's camp and my camp. We really appreciate you and your time. So Angie, hey, Angie, she was like, for me, when will the finger pointing stop occurring within the Black community and come back together the way we used to be? Preach. Because come on now, the time I remember, so a lot of my friends that's watching right now, Philly in the house. So in Philly, Shonte, this probably happened where you're from too, Texas, right?
California, actually. No. I'm a Cali girl initially.
Cali girl. Okay, well, Cali girl, West Coast, East Coast. I remember growing up, well, we would come together. So who remembers this? Growing up, Saturday morning, we will all come outside and we will all clean the street, like get the block together, community connection, and so that we can go ahead and have Black parties and just really commune with each other, because we were working during the week, going to school. And so Saturday mornings, we would get up early with our moms, our aunties, our grandmas, our nanas, and we would just go ahead and clean up the block, beautify it, but that was our time to connect, to commune. And we used to come as a community. I remember being like 5 years old, 3, 4, 5 years old. And I remember my mom would take me and my younger brother into one of the our neighbors' houses because they would have like a community forum or like a town hall in a way, but they would come to someone's house and everybody would come there and they would just talk about the problems with the community, what could they do differently, what can they do to come together. And that was community. But here we are. How do we get here in 2023 at the time of this recording? And now it seems like we're so divided, and a house divided can't stand. So we need to get back to basics. So Angie, thank you so much for your comment. It is about us coming back together. And she also said, because of the situation for some, is their real life now. Easier to put the focus on them versus themselves. Doing that takes accountability. That's not in them to do. Girl, all right, now she's preaching mighty good up here. So it's like, what do we do? Like, I guess the bottom line is, what can we do? What's one thing, one step? We invite you to put that in the comment section as well, everyone. But Shonte, what's one step? You already talked about, you said it loud and clear with regards to just listen, being able to listen. That is so key. Communication
first and foremost
is key. It's not just about communicating, but it's about active listening, empathic listening. So that I used to tell my clients when I used to do couples work, that it's not so much about you being able to already come on a defense and you're listening from here, but it's about hearing them from here, from the heart. Like, what are they saying? What do you hear them say? Not from your mind that's already, geared to attack, project. But if you were to drop down to your heart, by which many do not, because that's where they're vulnerable, that's where they feel weak, that's where they feel they can get taken advantage of or get hurt. But nevertheless, we want y'all to connect. It's a disconnect between your mind and your heart. If you're not listening and being able to hear, what are they really saying? And how does that resonate for you? And not for you to react, but in other words, to respond in a way of how does that now relate to you and your own story, your own, your own story, your own well-being, your own way of your philosophies, your views, your ways. So I think at the end of the day, Angie was saying that if you're going to tell a story, be correct and truthful in what you say, not lying and emasculating her Black husband and son to do so. Listen.
So I wanna address that, because as coaches, as therapists, as psychologists, psychotherapists, anyone in that particular industry, that realm, if we make assumptions without listening, we're not adhering to the cornerstone of our expertise, of our industry. Listening, quality listening, actively listening, giving our full attention without prejudgment, without assumptions, allows us to hear what is said and what is not said, and pick up on the nuances and really hear how they're emphasizing words, when they pause, the power of the silence, all of that we're able to take in and hope that we can use our training to guide them to their higher selves. We're not listening to get the dirt. We're not listening for them to lie, to detect if you're lying, right? But that's the background we come from, and we're not expecting everyone to have that kind of training. But we all can benefit from learning about the power of listening to understand versus listening to judge, listening to just wait for that moment where we can inject our opinions and our assumptions. It's like we all have stuff that we need to deal with and heal from. Yes. And we need to give that leverage. I don't care who it's to. Like, give that grace to Jada and her family. They've been living. I mean, we complain when they live their lives in secret. So we had to make up the fantasy about them. And then they opened their homes, then the red table talk, and we were like, yay. And now they're still living out loud. And now they're getting the blues for that too. It's like she might as well come out and tell her story, because in stories there's healing. And there's another thing she said in that interview clip on one of these shows. She said, when we tell our story, no, if we don't tell our story, that's where we stay stuck.
Mm-hmm.
We stay stuck in these boxes where society tells you not to tell your story because you don't want to implicate or release your business in the streets. They're
Mm-hmm.
celebrities. Their business is already in the streets. We
True.
wanted their business. We were asking for the business. We were happy to learn more about their business. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's something that didn't resonate, and now we're demonizing. Now it turned upside down,
Mm-hmm.
your perspective on them. And I don't think that's fair. I do know people have their opinions, and maybe there's hurt there because of portrayal, because the idea of them is no longer there, and that can hurt, right? I mean, it's like some people feel lost because they did hold them in such high esteem. And so you
Yeah.
got to explore that too. Why was I holding this couple in high? Why do I hold celebrities in high esteem in the first place? Why can I see? Why do I see, or can I not see celebrities as human beings like everybody else? Why do they have to have this magical stuff happening where they get more judgment than any other human being on the planet?
Mm-hmm. You know what? That's what Anitra just said. She said, what we need to do is self reflect on why you are reaching or reacting to celebrity life so personally. Why are we reacting
Yes.
to celebrity lives more so personally? And, healing is revealing. We were trained in our culture to zip our lips and we see the negative outcomes. And the thing is that it's just perpetual. It just keeps going. It makes me think about, especially in the Black community. But I've also learned, to be honest with you, just from talking to clients all over the world, sometimes it's not just the Black community. It can be rather cultural across the pond, across the continents. It's very interesting. And what I've learned is that we have been taught to be silent, and then we're suffering in silence. And then because of us suffering in silence, it gets internalized, and then it gets end up being projected, but then we attract to, and then we are attracted to that same story, and we recreate it. That generational curse that has always been the trend or the buzzword, generational curse. Well, why is that? Well, it's hereditary. Why is that? Because of mindset. Hey, I'm talking with a neuroscientist here. This is my partner right here on this side. And the fact
That is
remains.
so important. What you're saying is generational behaviors and cycles.
Yeah.
Look, I told you I saw myself in her, right? When she told the story about how she did not want to get married, but she was pregnant, and you were talking about how she was pressured. And when she was telling the story, it was years ago. She was telling that story, and I felt her to my core because I knew that was a story of a lot of women in my life. And when I got pregnant at a young age, I was a teenage mother. I decided I wasn't going to be forced into a relationship that I knew down in my soul was not going to serve me in the long run. So it took me a long time to finally commit to my husband of 20 years now. um, but, and we were friends for like 9 years
Wow.
before then. We went to college together and all of that, but I needed to be sure because my own mother, she revealed to us, she was kind of in that situation too. But instead of, I learned from her, I broke the cycle. Let's just say that.
Amen.
So she continued the cycle and she felt trapped. And yes, you said earlier that she signed the terms and agreement. Okay. But just also look at the state that she was in: young, pregnant, hormonal, in conflict. You don't know who you are in your early 20s. Your brain is still developing. Your prefrontal cortex not mature enough. She survived the streets of Baltimore. She was in survival mode already. She was raised by two parents who were drug addicts, right? And so don't tell me she was making decisions from a healthy place in that state. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, now she got to navigate this world. She got to try to fit in and do some healing on the side. Because that was another thing she talked about, right, Dr. Sarah? Like, you have to sacrifice your own healing journey so you could be everything to everybody else. And I felt that. That's why it's so important to listen, y'all. Just even if you don't agree, there are some parts that you will resonate with. How many of us, especially as women, feel like we're the last to take care of ourselves?
Yeah.
We take care of everybody else. This is what she was saying too. Like, I felt that. I crashed into a pole in an empty parking lot with my two kids in the car because my brain shut down. I was burnt out, overwhelmed. I talked about it in a TED talk. I didn't ask permission to tell my story. I didn't ask my husband permission to tell that story, even though he is a part of my journey. I told him, I let him know that I was going to tell the story because it's a part of my healing journey. Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't need Will's permission, her mama's permission, her kids' permission. She's a grown ass woman who sacrificed, we don't know how much she sacrificed mentally and emotionally to even get where she is right now. Because, like Dr. Sarah was saying, women suffer in silence. And I know men do too. Yes, absolutely. We're talking from the perspective of course, Jada, woman. And there was a time where she told Will, they were at the red table, she was in the bed for like 30 days straight. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that, Dr. Sarah? It's like, that sounds like depression to me. Yeah. You in the bed for 30 days straight. And he was just like, okay, I'll remember that. It didn't click to you that maybe she needs another level of support. And it's like, we're ignored. What we go through is minimized until we freaking crack or break. And then we're looked at as weak. Yeah. Unfortunately, so there was a lot of moments just reflecting on years of her revealing her journey, and then what's happening now, and then what's happening after this book or throughout, putting out this book. And so that's what we do as therapists, as coaches, as psychologists. We listen and, active listening without judgment. And then from there, we're able to put the narrative together and ask insightful questions. Most of the time, it's not about us giving advice and opinions. It's about asking the next question that will lead to an insight for whoever we're trying to guide to their higher selves. That's a whole nother level of communication and interaction. Where can I be of service? Where can I help you to tap into your higher self? Not where can I tear you down? Where can I find out where you're lying? Yeah. Where can I, shake you up and put you on the spot and make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel like crap? Where can I do that? That's not from our highest selves.
Mm-mm.
We need to evolve out of that, people. And that's the bigger picture of why we are speaking up about this.
You better talk about it, Shonte. Lord have mercy. Listen, we just thank you all for being a part of this conversation and collective. And it really helps us to see how when we show up and that everyone shows up and that we can come together to converse, respectfully. We can always respectfully disagree, but it's a matter of being able to come to a common ground. What is the bottom line? What are the
What
solutions?
excuses? What are the excuses we're making for a woman that you are assuming has everything? I know, Dr. Sarah, I know you're more diplomatic than me. I want to what are the excuses I'm making? You could put it in the comments, Marvin Perry, for a woman you assume has everything. What and define
Yeah, everything.
what everything is. Because is your definition of everything everybody's everything? Why are we making that assumption about someone? That's what we're talking about. If you listen and hear her, she did not have everything. If she is in the bed for 30 days straight, there's something in the depths of her that's missing something. And I'm not saying she can't be grateful. I'm not saying she didn't have the big house and she didn't have to worry about food and shelter and all of that. But you're saying she had everything a woman should have and there should be no complaints. And
And
there it is, people.
and I think
That's
it's a
why we're having this conversation.
and I think it's a definition or defining, as you say, and as Shonte says, Marvin, what does everything mean? And then what excuses do you hear? Um, and so it goes even to the point of what Angie was saying too, is that, forget about Jada and Will. Like, really, this conversation was even bigger than this, than them. This was this kind of like a bait in a way. It is about them, but it's kind of like to help us to start thinking. Listen, the reason why I came into psychology and why I came into this field was I wanted to know what makes people think. What have you to think? And if at any
Critically think.
time, say it again,
Critically think.
critically think. And if at any point in my quality of work, my body of work, my career, before I take my last breath, if I can help you to now know what you are thinking, because another thing, it's one thing to think, be like, okay, what are you thinking? Like, how did you come to that conclusion? How did you derive? What did you hear? Because, I don't know if y'all ever played that game where you can be in a circle, like when we were kids and you're in a circle and someone starts a secret and then it gets around. And then by the time it gets to the last person, it's a whole totally different like conversation. Like where did it shift? Like I said, when I read the comments, I'm looking at where does it change? Where did it shift and why? So if anything, this is a conversation of how is this locating all of us? Why were we making these celebrities bigger than life in terms of being in their business and really taking it personally? We are just wanting to evoke thought, one, and to bring it from what Shonte was saying, from one space of like a low level vibration, low level type of energy and response, to take it up just even a notch, a half a step. Doesn't have to be from 0 to 100, but just a smidget, so that you can now read it again, so that you can ask the question again, Marvin. So we're not bashing. This is not what we're trying to do at all. We just really want at the end of the day, what made you think that we were making excuses? What made you think that she has everything? Ask yourself that question. And then perhaps try to see and hear again, if that means coming back to the replay, if the replay is available to you, to hear, okay, wait, now I heard what Shonte said. I tell you the truth, when I was in school, and having to listen to certain videos and audios and things like that. And it's amazing. I can go back to them, and it's something that I didn't hear before because I was in a different headspace. I was a different mindset at the time. So at the end of the day, this is about a higher collective, just raising your level of consciousness to become aware of that. How do we all come together? How do we now start working together? Just like Angie was saying, because listen, we don't want this to be a distraction either. Like that's where my body of work is about. It's like there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot going on right now. And we don't have time to get caught up in the weeds. We don't have time to get caught up in the weeds. We need to come up so that we can all be on the same page, same accord on how are we going to now get back to well-being, because the well-being is there. This person I listened to, his name is Dr. Joseph Murphy, and he said that the only sin is ignorance, and the only consequence is suffering. So with ignorance that's happening, because ignorance is not bliss, it's fatal, and we're being distracted with a lot of things. A house divided cannot stand. So we need to come back to basics, back to foundation. And perhaps it took this conversation today, a part 2 of Jada's take on our take, to now have you to think so that you can discover how are you really thinking. Bottom line, and then I'm done. Start looking at where is your thinking coming from? Is it a collective of, or a collection of your upbringing, your childhood, circumstances, I call them violations, grievances? Where do your family, your ancestors, where do their thoughts start and where do yours end? Is there a separation between how they're thinking because that's how it was, this is how it's supposed to be, this is what it is, that now I'm adopting to that? And if you are, then take ownership. Just say, you know what, I believe that. Look, I feel like y'all bashing. I feel that, she has everything. I feel like y'all making excuses. Then own that. Own it. But if you're like, you know what, that's what my daddy would have said. My daddy would have said that y'all are bashing and y'all doing this and doing that. And that's just what the way it is. This, y'all not supposed to say anything. Y'all supposed to be quiet. You're supposed to sit down. It says in the Bible. Paul said it. Like, if that is coming from somewhere else and you don't own that, you don't really feel like that resonates with you, you're starting to question, but you're kind of afraid that if you were to like deviate from that teaching, that maybe that's going to upset the apple cart. We dare you, what Shonte said in the beginning of this conversation about courage. It takes courage. If anything, reframe your mindset about how Jada came about all of this. At the end of the day, Shonte is paving the way and helping you to see it from empathy, from her. Like if you were to be in her shoes and to see how she was suffering, how she did give up herself to now fit a fantasy, to what maybe not disappoint herself, disappoint everybody, her fans, whoever. But now she's like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And that takes courage when you can decide to just live your authentic life at all costs. So at the end of the day, start reframing. Reframe just means looking at it differently, different perspective. Look at this thing again and be able, especially with you, your ways, your philosophies, how you see things, how you see the world, yourself and others. Is it really where it begins for you and ends with you? Or was it because of how it was passed down from generation to generation? But is it fitting? Is it fitting your belief system now? And if it's not working, if it really is impacting, the collective that you're connected to, then maybe you have to reconsider about a different way of thinking and doing things differently so that you can get some different results. So
wonderful.
I don't know.
Yes. Just asking that question. Is there another way I can look at this situation? And you don't even have to have the answer immediately. Just staying curious that there could possibly be another perspective that can enlighten you and shift you to a higher state of consciousness and thinking.
Yeah.
There's power in listening and in questions.
It is.
Okay. And if you put the evidence, there's evidence that women are judged more harshly. Women do put themselves last. Women are told to be seen, not heard, and their voices are suppressed. Their ideas are suppressed. You know, they're judged harshly on their behaviors. I mean, this is common knowledge. We still see it every day. I mean, women's rights are being rolled back
Yeah.
as we speak by who?
Yeah.
Males who shouldn't have anything to any say about what we need to talk about with our doctor. These, I mean, come on. This is not something we're just making up and pulling out of a hat, people. We're not pulling, you know, pieces of paper with words on it out of a hat and making stuff up.
Yeah.
This is a narrative. This is a culture. This is ingrained in our nervous systems, how we
Yes.
treat people in society. And we're
Yes.
bringing it up out of your
Yes.
subconscious
Yes.
to the conscious. And that's going to look messy. It's
Mhm.
going to get uncomfortable. It's going to hurt. It's going to enrage. It's going to trigger
Mm, 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 mm.
because you're shaking up your paradigms.
That's right.
You're shaking up your automatic thinking. That means it's going to take mental effort to get curious and possibly have to change. Cognitive dissonance hurts people. You're like, wait a minute, that isn't fitting my narrative and my beliefs.
Yeah.
And it can hurt and feel too effortful to try to shift. We get that. We understand that. That's why we do this work with empathy, though. It's so
Mhm.
important for us to stay in the zone of listening and empathy and being non-judgmental and always of service. How can I bring out the best in someone?
Yeah.
Where in their journey can I help them to navigate so they can get towards their best?
Yes. Yes. And
That
yes.
just imagine if all of us came from that space, Dr. Sarah, woo, we would be on a whole nother trajectory
Mm-hmm.
in our humanity.
Whew. We'll be
And
in
that's where
harmony.
we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to next level humanity, people, because we see what's going on. We see what is happening when there is no humanity, when there is no listening, when there
Yeah.
are assumptions, when we are trying to dominate people's thinking and thought and force our thoughts and opinions on other people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about Jada
Nope.
and Will, but it includes them. We
Yes.
started with them to get attention so we could
Yes.
talk about something deeper, something bigger, something more important.
Yep. Hey, y'all hooked on to it. So well done. No,
But yes,
so
thank you
I
so
was just
much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts, your opinions. We just encourage everyone to just listen to the system, okay?
and I was
Listen
gonna
to
say,
our inner. Mhm.
I was just going to say real quick too that it's something that you said that was so powerful. And again, everybody, thank you so much. Marvin, thank you for even chiming in. We really appreciate you being able to be willing to share. Now, I saw the Shonte from IG coming out. So yes, I guess I had to level it out to be the diplomatic one today because I'm not on IG. Now, if I was on IG, I find that I'm a little bit more loose on IG. Y'all know me here on Facebook, so it's like, yeah, I have a certain image to I will go ahead and live my authentic life over at IG. But um, what I realized and what you just said was powerful. Oh my God. Looking at Jada, most people may look at it and be like, okay, this is toxicity at its finest. Actually, to me, that's what healing looks like.
Mm.
Jada's path right now, that's what healing looks like. That's what freedom looks like. And what we ended up doing as a society, with the powers that be, it's by design for many of us to be divided, to not have the, be harmonized, and so that we can be distracted, and then things happen before our very eyes we didn't even realize until it was too late. And that's again why we're taking and being glad at this disruption. We love disruption so that we can break up the pattern, so that it can have you to now shift and maneuver. And like Shonte was saying, when we're shifting these paradigms, it does feel rocky. It does feel uncomfortable. It does feel uncertain. You're going to go through all that. And we're trying to avoid it. We think that it's something wrong. And we're always trying to just be at peace forever and a day. But how do we grow? How do we cultivate? We got to cut some things. For flowers to grow beautifully, sometimes the pruning has to happen. And so what you're seeing in real time is what healing and freedom looks like. And that's her path. But just be open to the fact of, hey, you don't know, but you may have to embrace if this is also your healing journey, your breakthrough, your freedom path as well. And maybe you're trying to kick against the pricks that you don't want to have to go through certain things, and you see what she's been going through. And we all don't want to hurt. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be persecuted. None of us do. But nevertheless, like I said, it mattered a little bit more to her to be free, for her to live her authentic self. So what is it? A leader may not have all the answers, but they sure enough know what questions to ask. So we're going to leave you with these questions. What does healing look like for you? What is your healing path? What is your freedom journey? What is it that drew you to their story in the first place? What had you to reacting and what had you to react the way that you do? And what is your takeaway from this conversation? What is one thing that you walk away with that is different, slightly different than what you were thinking or feeling before you even got on this conversation with us? Now, all that, we've done our job today then. If that leaves you walking away with just thinking, and like Shonte said, just let it simmer, just let it marinate, just reflect. Like Anitra said, just be able to just selah it and see. We call it free association. First thoughts that come to mind. What comes up for you? Don't question it. No right or wrong, no harm, no foul, no good or bad. It just is. You perfectly are on your way to your well-being, to your healing, to your higher collective, to your authentic self. Limitlessly.
I love those. Those are such powerful questions. Yeah, I mean, we are here to help people get to their limitless selves.
Yes.
We happen to be doing it through psychology, neuroscience, and using what we have learned over decades and bringing it to as many people as possible, empowering people with what we do every day with our clients to empower you to get to the highest versions of yourself, your most authentic, favorite versions of yourselves.
Yes.
The one that fuels you instead of drains you.
Yes.
The one that inspires you. And then you go around with your light shining and brightening other people's lives who may be in darkness.
That's right.
We don't know what people are going through or what they're dealing with. Ask yourself, is what I'm putting out there helpful right now? Is this serving the person who's reading this, hearing this, as I make these assumptions and attack others? Where in this space or this situation can I uplift? Yes. Where can I just listen? That's liberating. That's how you get to those different levels of yourself, so we can navigate this already complex human existence. And once we start to operate from that part of ourselves, everyone, we're going to see a whole different way of thinking, of being, of communicating, of interacting, of how we treat each other, of how we treat the environment, the planet. And it's going to take all of us to make that impact on one another everywhere, whenever we can, even on social media. You are making an impact on people's minds, on people's hearts, on people's energy. You have the power to change people's states of mind and put them in different energy states.
Mhm.
Are you going to stimulate their empathy brain? Or are you going to stimulate and trigger their threat brain, their fear brain, their anger brain? You can consciously decide what type of words you're going to use to impact another people's state of mind. You are your brother's keeper. You are your sister's keeper. Whether you want to realize it or not, I'm here to tell you, Dr. Sarah is here to tell you, as human behaviorists, you are impacting people's brains and psychology, whether you know it or not, whether you want to believe it or not.
Mhm.
But once you step into the realm of being responsible for the your fellow man and woman, that's when you're going to make the real impact. That's where we're going to start to see the real change in humanity,
Yes.
because people will become more intentional about how they treat others.
Yes.
I think we said what we needed to
Yes,
say.
I think so too. And I think that you would love this, Shonte. Angie says, so first of all, Anitra said that she's going to buy the book and read her story. So that's beautiful. That's where it starts too. But people get the book. We ain't getting paid for that. We weren't, read the book, get to know her story. And Angie, just, I think this is a beautiful way to end our conversation today. Here is what her takeaway is today. Here is my healing process. Accept the part that I played in the situation, even if that part was I put up with it too for too long.
Mm, beautiful. And that takes courage.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That takes courage to admit
Yes.
that you could have possibly played a part
You know.
in this situation and how it, unfolded. And then there's a dynamic where you have to forgive yourself
Mhm.
and try to figure out how can I do better next time,
That's right.
right? So it's complex. Healing is messy. It's complex. It hurts. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable. That's why the brain rejects and wants to go to default toxic
Yeah.
mode, right? I'm used to living in toxicity. I'm used to my brain and body on alert mode and survival mode and flooded with cortisol, and at least I know what's coming. At least I have certainty, but it's toxic. It's not sustainable. So when it's time to heal, all that stuff has to be undone, unlearned, right? Reassessed. Sometimes you got to cut off ties to people and circles, situations, habits, all of that. It's all messy. We're humans. We're messy. We're complex. But we're also beautiful. We're also soulful. We
Yes.
also have greatness within us. We also are inspiring. We also are creatives. I mean, so I keep
Those
going
words,
on.
those positive words, those affirmations on us. Go ahead, Shante. I feel it. Come on now. Y'all feel it? Those are some
We're
positive
the
words.
whole spectrum of this human experience. But we can make it more beautiful by seeing the beauty in other people, by giving grace to other people, by giving grace to ourselves,
Mhm. Yes, that's where it
by
starts.
listening. So I got the book, the audio version, because I literally want to listen, not read with my eyeballs, even though I have tons of books. I love books too. But I, in particular, want to hear how she narrates her journey, because it stimulates the mind differently when we hear stories. Storytelling is very powerful for the brain and our ability to see ourselves in people's stories. Before symbols, there were stories, there were narratives, there was, people around the campfire telling stories of ancestors and their, journeys in different lands. and people were tuned in. That's where empathy comes from. That's where understanding can come from. That's where inspiration can come from. That's where understanding people's journey and getting some clarity on why they may have made certain decisions come from. So storytelling is very important and a tool for healing and growth for the storyteller and for the one who's listening. Okay. And
Yes.
so that's why I am going to listen to her audiobook
Awesome.
personally. I think, are there any more questions?
I know Shantae's in her bag, y'all. So hey, because she can, this is so she's so passionate with this whole thing, and we just thank you for and everyone just thank you for just tuning in and sharing your thoughts and your feelings and your opinions and just taking the time to hear and to now do differently to get different results. And
Absolutely.
I'm
Angie is saying that it took time for her to heal, and you have many combos with yourself. Look, I talk to myself all the time and answer myself. But I really like how you said telling your story helps people feel like they're not alone.
yeah.
And Dr. Sarah was saying earlier how so many people suffer in silence because they feel alone. They feel like if I tell my story, I'm going to be ostracized, I'm going to be criticized. And we instinctively want to be included, right? We want to be a part of the tribe, because if we are not feeling like we're included and part of the tribe, that translates in the brain as rejection, social rejection, right? And we know that we thrive together. So that's why our brains are wired with social networks to socialize. Okay. So if we feel like if we tell our story and we'll be ostracized from the family, from the social community, from Hollywood, whoever, our brains will process it not just as emotional pain, but the brain will also process it as pain, physical pain in the brain. But it's not that you stumped your toe. That's just how the brain operates. That's why we run from pain, any kind of pain, because it's survival. So, social pain, social rejection is processed as physical pain in the brain, which is why we don't want to be excluded. It is why being excluded hurts, being rejected hurts. So, in terms of telling our story, that's a reason why people don't tell their story. They don't want to feel the emotional and physical pain that the brain will process it as. Thus, they still stay alone and spiral downward. And so, sharing your story can save somebody, Angie. So, I'm so glad you brought that up. We can save minds, we can save hearts, we can save people from going down that spiral road into darkness, which they may not be able to come out of. I mean, we are at a state, I mean, it's an epidemic right now where we are in social isolation. The Surgeon General was just talking about that. He wrote a whole book on it. Like, we're in a state of emergency when it comes to social isolation. Nation, okay? It's an epidemic. Mental health issues are at their highest. This is not the time to demonize people who are just trying to tell their story and heal. And if you don't want to do anything that we have offered today, if you don't resonate with anything that um, that doesn't agree with your perspective, that's okay for now. Eventually, you're going to have to grow. And unfortunately, some people, the human behavior, we're human behaviorists, people only change when there's enough pain. Okay. Unfortunately, of course, we're trying to get people to change from another place. Don't wait for the pain. Change
Yeah.
because we see your higher self. We know what's in you. Let's go. Let's not wait until you're in dire straits emotionally, mentally, physically for you to change. But I also wanted just to add, if you don't resonate with what we're saying, with and you're not willing to listen to Jada because you made up your mind, she's a woman. There's, you know, people just making excuses, emasculation, whatever you're thinking. There are going to be some people who are going to heal from listening to her, and that matters. There are going to be some people who are going to see themselves in her story and decide to make certain decisions. Maybe they decide, you know what, I'm going to start putting myself first. You know what, I'm going to start telling my story. You know what, I'm going to start living more authentically. You know what, I think I'm living in a fantasy world. You know what, I think I'm going to speak up to my significant other about what I'm going through, what I've been holding in all these years. So even if one person can come out of the darkness because she told her story, I think it was worth it personally.
Mhm.
By
Same.
any means necessary, we are here to reach in the darkness to pull people to the light so that they can become the light, that they can find their own light. We need more light in the world, people.
Amen.
I think
Hey,
that's it, Dr.
okay,
We'll be here
you,
all night.
yeah. I got quiet because it's kind of like we're on different time zones. So yeah,
Yeah.
brain is turning off. It's like choo, and you left it. Listen,
I
you
got
gave
you. I
it
got
all
you.
today. You left it all here, and that is what we're talking about. So listen, I thank you, Shonte, for even allowing me to be a part of your platform and just working with you, partnering with you in these streets and for the cause. And yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And I'm about to tune out and go.
Yes, yes. Look, I took a nap. I took a nap before
That's what it
we
is.
got on, so I was ready to go. But if you are watching the replay, please feel free to share your comments. We'll go back to the comments and respond, and just stay respectful. And you can disagree and stay respectful, and you can also agree and share your insights and address any of the questions or perspectives that you feel like you really resonated with. We really want to know what you all resonated with, and we're just here. We're just here to empower minds. That's what we do. And so, until next time, everyone. We will continue on this trajectory of empowering minds using topics to really get your attention and then talk about the bigger picture of things. I love this interaction with you, Dr. Sarah. So thank you so much for sharing your time. I know you're a busy lady. So I love being able to share space with you and empower minds together. So
Awesome.
we
Thank
will see you all next time. Remember, when you better your mind and better your brain, you can better your impact in the world. And we need you to be more intentional about how you impact other people, because you are. Okay. Love and light, people. Love and light. Take care, everyone.
you. Bye.